Starting. This Hangout on Air is live. Hooray! Hooray! Thank you all for tuning in to my PaulCast, these little live shows that I have a couple times a month. I see that we already have people in the chats, and I'm very excited for that. There is, if you're not aware, there's generally about a minute delay between when I and my co-host say things and see things in the chat, and then you see them on your videos. Just be aware of that. But I'm going to start off by going into my theme music here. That's enough of that. And thank you for joining me on this PaulCast. I am Paul, currently, but not for long, living in the Washington, D.C. area. And I am joined by just one of my favorite people on YouTube. And I'm going to throw it over to him to introduce himself right now.
Hi, I'm Milo. He or they pronouns. I'm queer and I do the YouTube things. And that's really all you need to know about me.
I mean, that's sufficient. That's sufficient. I'm very excited to have you in here. I actually wanted to invite you to do a live show with me a long time ago, but I figured because you are so young and because I didn't know you very well, I should get to know you a little bit first before we do this live show co-host thing. Yeah, we've known each other for a few months now. You participated in my 3-year anniversary video, which was great.
Which was an amazing video. Like, I cannot believe like the level of collab and just like YouTube friendship things that were going on, and it was so adorable. It was so adorable.
Thank you. Those were all the things that we're aiming for, so I'm glad. You also participated in my Christmas video, dancing around, making the day. It was great.
That happened.
It did happen. In the chat, we already have, even before the show started, Tate the Great, I see, and Squirrel Moose and Clarence, No More Heroes, Kale Ling, Scozio, PaulTalks, James Lyson, tell me how to pronounce that, Star Pasta, Casey Cats. Wow, that's a lot of people. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Oh, man. I don't have the chat up yet because I failed at that, but
it's okay. As I see them asking questions, I will convey them to the video and you so that everybody knows what's going on.
Sweet.
For example, Kale Ling said, doop-de-doop, want to see my loop.
Ah! God bless. God bless. It makes me so happy when people do the things with my intro.
Me too.
It makes me happy.
Love it.
I'm just
and then also asked, once begun, do I need to refresh or will the live chat just pop up? If you're watching the live chat on a web browser, then the questions will just the comments will disappear as we keep going. If you're on a mobile device, you might have to refresh. I'm not as familiar with that.
And I just got the chat up.
Hooray! And we also have Liana Stark, I think. Liana Stark in the chat. Hello.
Hello, people.
So before we start going into questions from people in the chats, I want to ask you, first of all, Milo, how long have you been on YouTube and what got you started here?
Oh, man. Well, I've been on YouTube on various different channels since 2011. I created my YouTube channel against the rules because I'm a rule breaker because I was 3 days away from turning 13. I originally started my YouTube just to post little like animation videos that I made about myself and my friends. And then it turned into, I started making like DIY tutorials. And then I started realizing that I'm really queer and I really wanted to talk about that. I'm sorry, trigger warning. I will probably use that word a lot. So if you're not comfortable with that, I'm sorry.
I will try not to use that word because I don't even have like the privilege of being a part of the community to say that word. So I'm going to avoid it entirely.
Okay. I just happen to say it a lot because I love queer things, and I'm so queer, and I'll censor it in my subtitles and titles, but it's very hard for me to censor it for my language.
That's understandable. That's understandable. And again, if you were not a part of the rainbow community, I think that I would feel weird about you saying it. But since you are,
Yeah.
you can try to take ownership of it back again for yourself, whereas other people should not impose it on you.
Yeah. By the way, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I know you say rainbow community instead of LGBT or whatever other umbrella terms people use. But you're the only person who I've ever heard use that term. So I was wondering, like, where you heard that from, and like, I don't know what.
Yeah, I saw a trans activist Twitterer use the phrase because they did not like the lack of explicit inclusion of all the other acronyms and initialisms and other phrases, because you have to make it a really long initialism if you want to include really everybody. As we've all seen, the LGBT initialism tends to be one where it really tends to aim toward gay men, is what is usually referred to by that, and it's like a cop-out term. Whereas rainbow community is one where it is not one that has been used as a slur. It's not one that is exclusive, and it tends to apply to a lot of different things that are marginalized identities. But it's not one that I made up. I'm trying to find out what the Twitterer is. It's something Vivian, I think.
Oh, I think I follow.
I think Vanguard Vivian. Yeah, at Vanguard Vivian on Twitter is the one who said that they prefer rainbow, and so that's what I started using.
Yes, I follow them. I'm not sure what their pronouns are, but we're mutuals on Tumblr or Twitter.
Feel like it's they them, but let me double check. Let me double check. She or they is what they say in their bio. Phew. So we are, this is going to be a live show where we are concerned with and respectful of identities.
Yes.
Let's see here. Take a look at the chats. There are lots of people on the chats. It's so exciting.
Yay.
We also have Kurisu Sugikusa, I think, in the chats. Hello. Tell me if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Kale Ling asked people in the chats to say if they are from Milo's channel or from Paul's channel. That is cool. Star Pasta says that they're from both. Yay.
That's awesome.
Lots of people here from Milo.
Oh yeah, all of y'all people should follow Paul because he is awesome, and he is one of my favorite little YouTubers because I just think that his community involvement with all of his viewers is just excellent, and I haven't seen anyone who really goes as far as Paul goes to involve people in his videos, and he does all these live shows with everyone, and it's amazing. Please subscribe to him if you haven't.
Oh, thank you, Milo. I appreciate all that. That's so nice. I do, though. It's funny. I came into this YouTube community not that long ago. I mean, I just celebrated my 3rd year anniversary, and as I came into this, came into this trying to help people and speak up for the people who have quieter voices and defend the people who need defending. And I very quickly found out that other small YouTubers like myself, people who have fewer than 100,000 subscribers, fewer than 10,000, fewer than 1,000 subscribers, we have just as important and valid things to say.
Right.
But we get overlooked because not as many people hear us. So yeah, it became one of my side quests to lift up everybody who's in little YouTube. And people in the chats are mentioning Ashley Mardell because they saw you in a collab with Ashley Mardell. And yes, Ashley is another person who does lots of defense of little YouTube. I'm very excited for her series coming out soon.
Yes, did you see her trailer? Because she just posted it, and it's
what?
Amazing.
Oh, I didn't see the trailer. I'm only going to see that much after the show. That's going to be the first thing I watch.
Okay, it's phenomenal. I can't wait to see her documentary. Because, wow. Yay! Awesome, Ashley Mardell. Awesome job.
Yes. I like that Ashley does so much for the rainbow community, and also is totally willing to say, hey, I effed up. I didn't understand this, or I said this wrong, or I did this wrong. Here's how I'm going to do things better from now on.
Right.
Love that she does that. Love it.
Yeah, that's how I like met her and how I became friends with her, because I commented on one of her ABCs of LGBT videos, critiquing and also like giving support, because the ABCs of LGBT series is phenomenal. But I had some disagreements with some of the things that people said, so I commented that, and then she came to my channel and was like, hey, do you want to like broadcast your thoughts to the world on her channel? So she's phenomenal, and she does such a good job of being an ally to the other communities inside of LGBT, and really does a phenomenal job of getting feedback from the community and from her viewers. And I love watching her side channel because she is super interactive with people. Although it must be harder for her to get all of that involvement as someone who has a bigger channel. Whereas your channel, you're a small YouTuber who just knows all other small YouTubers.
I don't know all the other small. There are millions of us, I'm sure, but I know, a few hundred.
Yeah, a lot. I think though that the issue of small YouTubers not having their voices heard and respected is changing, and hopefully will continue to change. Thanks to the work of people like Ashley Mardell, who are bigger YouTubers who involve the small YouTube community, and due to like some things that VidCon is changing about this year. Like I got invited to be a guest at VidCon this year, and a lot of my other friends who are small YouTubers got invited. So the world is changing.
That is awesome. Tell everybody what panel you're going to be on.
Okay, so I am going to be a facilitator on sexual orientation roundtable. That is a community panel, so it's open to anyone who goes to VidCon. And I'm also going to be on the YoungTube panel, which is open to everyone who goes to VidCon. So,
yay, that's so cool.
I'm young and I'm gay, so
awesome. I'm very excited. I don't know if I'll be able to make. I mean, they haven't released the final schedule yet, so I don't know what conflicts with what.
Yeah, I mean, I know where my panels are, but I don't know when any of the other ones are, so I couldn't say.
But as long as there are no conflicts,
yeah.
I'll try to make both of those. My approach toward going to VidCon panels, not that anybody asked me, but my approach is that A, if I am not invading the space, and B, if I am not taking the space from somebody else who better deserves to be there, and it's for a marginalized voices topic, I'm going to go there. But like last year I went to the Women on YouTube workshop, not the main stage panel, but the workshop, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what anything was. And I really didn't fit in there. It was really not for me as a not woman on YouTube. I should not have been there. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. And so similarly, if the gender identity roundtable is one where like it's a limited amount of space, or it's just something that's specifically for people who have marginalized gender identities, I'm going to step out. I'm going to let somebody else take the space instead. But YoungTube I usually go to because I just want to cheer for everybody who's there. I want to go, yeah!
I don't think that the gender roundtable one is like going to be, I think it covers a broad spectrum of genders. I believe so, because I know that Ashley Mardell is on it, I think, and she describes herself as being like mostly cis. And of course she's mostly cis woman, which is also a marginalized orientation or gender, but
it is, but it's
not entirely just like trans identities. I think it covers a spectrum, I guess.
I mean, that would make sense. I would hope that a roundtable on gender identity doesn't hold to the binary, first of all. And so that would mean that people who are Cis could be there. People who are trans could be there. People who are anywhere in the gender fluid spectrum could be there. That makes sense. But sometimes they don't have a lot of space. I don't know what that kind of spacing is. And so if there are a bunch of gender fluid kids who are waiting to get in and on that round table, I'm not going to take their space from them. Right. I'm going to step aside, let them take a seat.
Right.
Let's see here. Lots more stuff in the chat. Oh, Squirrel Moose and Clarence asks, can you guys do a live chat with Ashley?
Man.
I would love to do a live chat with Ashley, but you know, she is a pretty big YouTuber. As aware as she is of us small YouTubers, I honestly don't know if she has the time.
Yeah.
She's so busy.
Yeah. Especially with her little YouTube, and I'm sure she is super busy with that. I don't know. But, I mean, I could maybe propose a topic, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, both of us can ask her at VidCon.
Yeah.
Star Pasta says, I love how Ashley is totally willing to admit when she messes up and how she's such an awesome ally. Here. Kale Ling also says, Ashley and Kristen from Stuff Mom Never Told You, are amazing humans that listen to their viewers. Yes, Stuff Mom Never Told You is another one that's a great channel. Yeah.
One moment.
Spoo accuses me of knowing all these small YouTubers. I swear, Spoo, I really don't know all the little YouTubers. It just seems like it sometimes. Riley Arachnid shows up and says that Wild Riley appears. Hi, Riley.
Hello.
Reese B says, hello, I don't have a bunch of time, but I thought I'd tune in. Hi, Envy. She goes by Envy or Nerdy Viola here on YouTube's. And then Casey Cat says, the three of us should. Yes, it would be great if all three of us, you, me, and Ashley, could all have a live chat together. That would be ridiculously fun.
It would be.
And you could have your Noah, your kumquat, your cucumber. Zucchini.
Guessing all the vegetables.
And Ashley could have Grace join in, so there would be four of us all hanging out, and that would be just ridiculously fun. Yay.
And Noah is coming to VidCon.
Oh yay!
Yeah, he's only has a community pass.
That's fine.
But he'll be able to come and watch me if he doesn't have conflicts with that. So it's great. It's exciting.
It's very cool. Squirrel Moose and Clarence says, I'm freaking out. My name's Alexander, gender fluid. But hi Alexander.
Hello, people. Hey, Alexander. Oh man.
If any of you, I'm gonna keep on asking the questions to Milo that I have. But if any of you in the chats have questions that you would like us to say, please let us know. Casey Cat says that I keep saying your name wrong. I apologize. If you can write it out how I'm supposed to say it, I will try to say it correctly. Yeah. So Milo, have you been to VidCon before?
I haven't. It's scary because I've been wanting to go for so long, because I started wanting to go probably in like 2012 was the first time I asked my mom if I could go to VidCon, back when I was mostly just a fan. Like, I probably had fewer than 1,000 subscribers then, probably wasn't really making a lot of videos, and I was then just on my DIY channel, which didn't get the type of community that my vlogging channel does. So I wanted to go as a fan. I really wanted to meet Charlie McDonnell. That was like my goal in life. If you watched my earliest vlogs, which are not on my current channel, but are still public on little channels off in the interwebs, if you want to find them, you can see that my earliest vlogs are heavily influenced by Charlie McDonnell. And so I've been wanting to go for forever. Felt a little bit disheartened in the past when I've been more aware as a small creator myself, how dominated by fan culture and by celebrity culture YouTube or VidCon seems, from what I have just seen online of it. I'm sure it's different when you go to the creator panels. But this year, that divide doesn't seem like
as pronounced.
Yeah, because VidCon is inviting more smaller creators and involving smaller creators on panels that are talking about topics other than just about being a small creator.
Yes.
Because of course, the Less Than Famous panel is important, and I'm super glad that some of my YouTube friends are on that this year.
Justin Dennis is on there.
Yeah, I know, it's awesome. But now smaller creators are on a variety of panels, which is super important because obviously we have opinions on topics other than just being a small creator.
Hear, hear. Yeah, I think that before last year, because last year was the first year they introduced the creator panel, creator path, and pass. And previous to that, the previous year, 2014, was my first time attending, and there was just industry and community. So I got the community pass, and I was lumped in with the people who are literally just screaming fans. And there's nothing wrong with being a screaming fan. That's fine. But the fact that I was not a screaming fan and lumped in with them made me feel like I did not belong. But last year was the first year that they introduced the Creator Pass. That's the one that I got. And they very smartly, those VidCon peoples, very smartly put aside an entire floor for the creators. So there's like a top floor that's for the industry. This is very expensive. And then there's a middle floor for the creator, which is a little expensive. And then there's the main area, which is for all the community pass holders, which you can pay the smallest pass fee to get into. And that was great. I could go and attend some of the community main panel stuff, like the race and representation panel, which was open to the community and was awesome. Or I could go up to the creator panels, and I could go and attend the mental health workshop with like Connor Manning and Katie Morton, and it was fantastic.
That's what I really want to go to this year. I hope they have it again because I really want to go to that.
I know that Connor's doing something, and I'm pretty sure that Katie's doing something. So I hope that they're going back again for the mental health panel, even though they were already on it before, and I think VidCon tries not to do repeats, but they're just so good at it.
There's a lot of like mental health YouTubers that I saw who were invited, and I don't know if they were like on the mental health panel last year, but I did see some on the featured creators list. So I'm hoping, crossing my fingers that it does not conflict with any of my panels.
Yeah, me too. I know that Alexandria Taylor, Allie Taylor, is coordinating the disabilities on YouTube panel. So some of the mental health YouTubers might be on part of that. And then there might be a separate thing that is specifically for mental health. I'm really not sure, but they're doing tons this year. Like the most they've ever done, they're doing this year at VidCon. It's very exciting.
Yes, it is. And it's super exciting open mic, like the audition for like open mic and like poetry and things. Did they have that last year, or is that new this year?
I don't remember the poetry. I don't remember the poetry open mic. They did have regular open mic because some of my friends got into that last year and again this year. Yay!
Yeah. And a lot of my friends got into the poetry one. I think I know someone on the like singing open mic. I know Aislenn's doing poetry.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Alexander,
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look at the chats because we let that go for a couple of minutes here. Tate the Great has come back, but you have not missed much. It's all right. Kurisu says they feel like they're behind in the video. There's got to be a minute delay. There's got to be a minute delay before we can respond to you at the earliest. Oh, I should just call them Cass. I will call you Cass. Thank you for putting up with my mispronunciation of your name. Kale says, go little YouTubers and big YouTubers working together. I mean, yeah. Into that. Okay, so Kale asks the question. Oh, actually, I'm going to come back to that because Envy asked this shorter question. Envy asks, people with creator passes can do the same stuff as those with community passes, right? Correct. So the idea
except for
is
the signing hall. Except for the signing hall. That's the only difference.
Yeah. So people with community passes are the ones who can get into the signing hall. People with creator passes can do everything that community pass does except for signing hall and plus the creator stuff. And then people with industry passes, I believe, can do whatever the hell they want. They can do anything because they paid $500 for it. Whatever.
I think it was like 900 or something. I don't know.
God.
It's a lot of money.
It's so much money.
But being a featured creator means that I can go mostly anywhere without having to pay for it. So
Nice.
not to brag, but I'm like,
It's awesome. It's awesome. You should brag. It's great. Alex confirms that it's new this year, which I think that they're talking about the poetry open mic. Oh yeah, okay. So Kale Ling asks the question: big YouTuber, little YouTuber, what draws that line? Is it subscribers? Is it exposure? Question mark. What do you think, Milo?
I don't think there's an easy answer to this, because I think that at Sitsi, they like define like a little YouTuber as being with 10,000 subscribers or less, and to like use like the YouTube spaces, those are determined on how many subscribers you have. Like the LA one is 10,000 subscribers and the New York one is 5,000 subscribers. So if we're using those as determinants, then I'm a big YouTuber in New York and a little YouTuber in LA. I don't think that there is a definite like defining characteristic between the two, because a little YouTuber can have more opportunities than a big YouTuber. It depends on like your connections, and like I think that community strength should be a basis of that as well, because you can have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers from people who don't really engage in your content. So I don't know, what are your thoughts?
The end of your response is kind of where my thinking is as well. It's all about like the connections and the community that you have behind you is really kind of determines your stature these days. Like somebody who only has, say, like 10,000 or 20,000 subscribers, but they happen to know lots of big YouTubers, or they happen to know people at Google, or they happen to have like good deals with people at YouTube, or they've been in parts of a web series. These are people where by the numbers, they might not seem that big, but they've got enough influence and reach and the ability to do things that essentially they can act like a big YouTuber.
Yeah.
And you know, that's, if I have a goal toward fame for myself, it's gonna be very similar. I would like to not so much have lots of numbers behind me, although that's certainly nice. I'd love all my new subscribers whenever they come along. For me, it's mostly though that I want to be able to connect with people and make like legitimate relationships, not just online fakey collab relationships, but like legitimate friendships where we talk to each other and we care about each other and we like lift up each other's careers and we try to do things that are positive for each other. That's the sort of growth that I want out of my YouTube career. And I think that I'm kind of on the cusp of that. Like I just need like a push so that a nominally big YouTuber, like even an Ashley Mardell, I feel like she's only in the hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So
200 something
nice.
Subscribers. Yeah,
nice.
200,000 something.
So by my standards, she's a big YouTuber, but by Google standards, she's still like medium to small. But if I had an Ashley Mardell type personality who's on my team Paul, then I would feel like I was there. I feel like I had made it as a big YouTuber, even if Google themselves wouldn't necessarily say so.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Like, I feel like I would consider myself a small YouTuber. I have fewer than 8,000 subscribers, although the subscribers that I have, I feel very closely connected to, as like appropriately as you can be on YouTube, because you can't be too close to people who you have not met in person and who I do have a different like power dynamic with, because people know stuff about me, but I don't know anything about them, and they're my subscribers, and I don't know if any of them have like fan complexes or whatever about me. I mean, certainly there are probably people who would consider themselves a fan of me. That's how YouTube works. But I know that I have greatly benefited from being friends with Ashley Mardell. I know that the way VidCon works is that when you RSVP to be a featured creator of VidCon, you can recommend other YouTubers to be invited. So the more friends you have who are bigger or who are included in bigger VidCon communities, the easier it is for you to get in to that.
Yeah, absolutely. When Presley and her dad of Act Out Games, just like the most adorable channel. That's the most adorable. Oh my gosh. But when they RSVP'd, I feel like for YoungTube, either this year or the last year, they apparently recommended me to be a featured creator. I am not one. I am not a featured creator, but I was so touched that they recommended me. That was so nice of them. That was really nice. But yeah, that is a sort of example of how, like, being able to make connections with people who keep on growing in the industry is itself a way for you to grow in the industry. Probably easier than just accumulating numbers, because it is hard to build subscriber count.
It is. Like, I try not to focus too much on like numbers, but it is like beneficial to know like how many subscribers you get per month, how many you lose, like why people are subscribing or unsubscribing. Not necessarily that dictates like how I produce content, but that, of course, I make videos partially because I want engagement and I want the community. So I want feedback from my community, and it saddens me when I see like for some of my friends' channels who like have a subscriber base, but like that doesn't grow all that fast. And I'm like, why aren't people subscribing to this lovely internet person? Because they're so great. And I'm going to make a video, probably my next video, about like some of my favorite smaller creators, because I just think that, you know, there's always more that each individual YouTuber can do to support other YouTubers.
Here, and that's something we're starting to see more and more from these big YouTubers that are out there, and it's just a great trend. Like with Mika Kitty and Leah Norms and Rosiana Haas Rojas, all recommending small YouTubers and their videos. So
and
great. Hannah Witten.
Yeah.
I think Hank Green has recently featured lots of YouTubers, including some small ones. Like, this is a good trend. This could keep on going.
Yeah, it's awesome to see like my friends who like get shouted out by bigger channels, and then they start growing, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so happy for you, because I know that feel when I was on Ashley Mardell's channel, and then I went from 200 subscribers to over 1,000 subscribers in like a day, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad for it, because I'm pretty sure that's how I discovered you. I'm pretty sure that's what was my route to find out who you were. I think
my hypotheses, I don't remember exactly, but I think I was watching you before you subscribed to me. Because amazing. I remember watching you for a while, and I never looked at your subscriber count. I always just assumed that you were like YouTube famous, or like moderately sized, like 10,000 plus. And then I was like, wait, this guy like only has 2,000 subscribers? Like 2,000 subscribers is a good solid amount. But I just was like, this content is so good and so engaging and so like needed, a lot of it. Because you talk about, you have some like lighthearted videos and some just like sentimental videos, like your Santa Paul series.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? That's a cute series. But then you also do reactions to like social justice issues that are hot topics and like very needed things to be said, and especially from a different perspective. Like a lot of people who talk about social justice on YouTube are women, LGBT people.
They're part of the marginalized communities themselves.
Yes, and people of color too, of course. But then I think that you talk a lot about like some feministy issues, and I think that it's important to have men and like non-LGBT people talking about feminism and LGBT issues to engage a different audience into those topics.
I am so appreciative of the fact that you like that about my channel, because it is definitely a core part of the reason why I keep on doing these videos, making these videos, is that I try to. Drew, are you okay?
Oh.
I think she's having a nightmare. Drew,
it's okay.
Okay. I was going to say that I think it's important for allies of marginalized communities to be able to speak up and say, hey, these are important issues that aren't important to me because they keep me down in life. They're important to me because nobody should be kept down in life. And it's hard to walk the line between saying that to bring attention to an issue and to say that as an ally, I am supportive of the people who need support without talking over them. It's really hard not to talk over people when you try to do that. Especially because
sorry.
I didn't want to talk over you. No. I was going to say, especially because society teaches me as a cis, male, light-skinned, albeit Asian, guy that my words are the most important thing, which is bullshit. They're not the most important thing. But if you're going to give me that kind of privilege anyway, I'm going to try to use that privilege for good.
Right. And I think, what was I going to say? I was going to say something. What were you talking about? What were you just talking about? Shoot. Before I stopped you. Oh, man.
I was talking about being an ally.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Oh.
Shoot.
Maybe it'll come back to you. I'm going to go to the chat.
Okay, yeah, you do that.
And I'll talk about things in the chat while you're trying to remember what you were going to say. And we had to say goodbye to No More Heroes who left us. If you see this video later, No More Heroes. Bye. Thanks for being there at the beginning of the chats of the video. And then we had Melissa Forberg come in. Hi, Melissa. She is one of my Patreon supporters, and I appreciate her so much. Thank you for coming. Oh, and Melissa also watches Nerdy Viola's channel, which is very cool. I'm glad. Hopefully, I'm glad of their connection. I think I might have made their connection, but I'm glad of it regardless of how it came to be. What else is here? Okay, and so Kale asked another question, which was a good one.
Oh, I just remembered what I was going to say.
Say it before you forget.
So, shoot, no, what was it? No, okay. You were talking about how you don't want to speak over people, and I just wanted to say that I think that you have a good balance of not speaking over people because of how you involve other people in your channel, and you promote other YouTubers. That's what I wanted to say. Okay.
Yay! All right. Well, thank you very much. That's I can't always be sure because I have tunnel vision because of my privileged perspective.
Right.
So I can't be sure that I'm not saying bullshit.
Right.
But what I can do is I can make a conscious effort to say, in addition to what I'm saying here, also go and listen to this person and this person and this person. These are people who definitely do not have my privileged perspective. And so you should listen to them. And maybe they'll say something that's different from me. And that's fine. You listen to them more than you listen to me because I am an outsider who's just trying to be an ally.
Yeah. And it's an issue that I deal with too, because of course my channel mostly focuses on LGBT issues because that's what I'm most passionate about and what I have my personal experience with. But then I sometimes dabble in the realms of talking about feministy issues and with racism that I tie into the topics that I'm talking about. But that I sometimes wonder if I have the jurisdiction to say, like, I have a video that a lot of people, it's going around in like the MRA communities, and people are reacting negative to my how to be an ally to transgender people video, in which I said that all white people are racist, which is something that I believe, and it's an idea that I got from people like Gazi Kodzo. I hope I'm saying that right, but a YouTuber who I look up to, who is very radical, but who I think voices like that are necessary and their opinions should be uplifted, which is what I try to do. And I link to their videos in my videos, but it's always like when I say things like all white people are racist, then I have some people who comment saying that that they're black and they think that I'm doing harm to the communities I'm trying to support. And I'm like, it's tough trying to support very radical ideas that are not your original thoughts.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'm reminded of Rachel Dolezal and how Cat Black and a couple other people said that declaring yourself black is a different thing than accepting and coming out as your gender identity. While a lot of people who are not black and not trans thought that they were identical, thought it was the same thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's really not.
I mean, I believe that it is not, and I believe that it is not because I've heard the arguments of, and I've tried, and I can empathize with the positions of trans people and black trans people.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I am on the side of it is not the same thing. But there are some black people who are liberal, who are feminist, who thought, you know what, maybe this is an idea that I need to consider. And while I disagree with them, I think that they are wrong and misguided because they think that there is an aspect to the lived identity of being a black person that is identical to the inherent identity of your gender.
Mm.
You know, that I'm none of the above. I am none of the above. So regardless of my opinion, I'm not going to go to that person and say on their content, you're wrong. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say what I support and then like point my fingers in the directions of the people who made those arguments from a position of having lived the experience.
Yeah. And on that issue, there was, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to direct any people to this video that might take offense or find it problematic as I did and then comment negatively. But there was a YouTuber who is a gay black man who made a video talking about how we should support Rachel Dolezal because comparing it to being transgender, but basically his argument was that, well, Caitlyn Jenner lied about her gender because she didn't come out right when she figured out her gender identity. And it's like, no, that's actually not how it works. Like, trans people aren't lying when they're in the closet. So I commented on that video, and I tried to, I of course didn't engage in the argument, in the discussion about Rachel Dolezal when it didn't involve the trans discussion, because I can't really comment on like how the social construction of race is different from the social construction of gender. But I know that being trans is not lying about your gender. So I commented about that, which I felt pretty passionately about. Like, you can't say that we should accept someone lying about their race because transgender people are lying about their gender. That's not true.
Yeah, and there's an assumption there. I mean, again, this is not my argument. I'm just repeating the things that I've heard and read from other people. But there's an assumption there that is a false premise, which is that trans people are tricking us. Yeah. Not true. Trans people are being their most honest selves after having potentially lived a lifetime of lying, of hiding who they really are, hiding who they really are out of fear, out of unsureness, out of safety.
Yeah.
So when somebody is out as trans, that's not them lying, that's not them tricking, that's them finally being their true selves.
Right.
At least that's how I see it as an ally.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with you.
Oh, right. Good. Yay. Yeah. We're all on the same page. The chats are piling up, so I don't want to abandon them.
Yeah, sorry, I'm distracting.
No. Okay. Hey, this is our show. This is about Milo and Paul.
Oh, man.
Let's see here. A couple more comments about YouTube, big YouTube versus small YouTube. Tate the Great says all YouTubers should have their support for other YouTubers. That would be nice. Milo, in your video. Oh, well, Alex suggests that if you make a video where you recommend small YouTubers, that you include some people of color, but I bet you already were going to.
That was my intention. Of course, most of the YouTubers I watch are of marginalized communities. And I really want to support channels that are from marginalized voices, of course, including like different communities. And also YouTubers who like make their content accessible, who like put closed captions and like descriptions and things to make their channels accessible.
I really need to work on getting on adding audio descriptive tracks to my videos. I want to try that at least as at least as an experiment in response to James Rath's video.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, there's a thing where you can actually do an audio description of what's on the screen, and then also include the dialogue, so that people who are sight impaired can experience your videos. Yeah,
that's awesome. I will have to look into that because I didn't know about that technology.
It's not something that YouTube supports right now, so we're trying to like push for it.
Okay, yeah.
Netflix does. Netflix has it, which is amazing because on I think on like Daredevil, the Netflix series, you can turn on audio descriptive track, so that so that if you are blind or if you are otherwise visually disabled, you can still hear what's going on Daredevil, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
It is. Eyes Like a Cat is in the chats. Hooray! Hi, Panina. Welcome here. And they say, I knew of Milo before Ashley Mardell. Hashtag hipster.
Oh man, you're so cool. And thank you for subscribing to me. Oh man. Or of knowing of me.
Kale says, that was totally you, Milo, reaching out to Ashley to get your voice out on trans issues. So glad Ashley hosted you. Yay! Tate the Great says, in my opinion, Milo's FTM Transtastic audition really helped too, because that's how I found them. Awesome. I'm subscribed to FTM Transtastic. I don't comment on their videos very often, the collab channel, but I do try to watch it when I can. Oh, Melissa Forberg says that I did connect her and Nerdy Viola. Hooray! Melissa Forberg says, love Ghazi, he rocks. We are joined in the chat by Soraya, I think. Soraya, Soraya. Hello, welcome to the show. Eyes Like a Cat says, it would be cool if you talked more about disabilities. You can talk about your mental illnesses. You can talk about that if you feel comfortable. And if not, you can just talk about it from an ally's perspective. So what do you think, Milo?
Oh, what was that?
It's okay. It's okay.
I was reading a comment and then, sorry, what was the question?
It is all right. Eyes Like a Cat, Benina said, it would be cool if you talked more about disabilities. You can talk about your mental illnesses. You can talk about that if you feel comfortable, or from an ally's perspective.
It's definitely something that I plan on talking about. The former thing that you mentioned is something that I want to talk about, but that there are some people in my life who I don't want them to know of. So I'm not in the position to make videos about that yet, but I hope to be in a place where I'm comfortable talking about that. And of course, I want to do more as an ally to disabled communities. And I'm friends with Annie Elaney.
Annie Elaney.
She's awesome. Who is an awesome YouTuber who you should subscribe to. And she has a chronic illness and she uses a wheelchair, and she talks a lot about physical disabilities. And her videos have opened my eyes a lot because I wasn't very educated on the topic, but I love her channel, and I actually have IRL mutual friends with her, which is cool. But I do want to do more to be an ally to that community. I just need to figure out how to do that.
I don't believe I currently have any physical disabilities. I definitely have some mental illnesses. And primarily, I mean, my diagnosed mental illness is depression. I have clinical depression. But I have not gone back to a doctor for treatment of that in over a decade. So there could very well be more nuances to my diagnosis now. There could be many more illnesses that I have now. Like I strongly suspect that I have some form of social anxiety. I strongly suspect that I have maybe a mild case of borderline personality disorder. Fortunately, you know, I'm able to, with self-care and being, just basically very gentle with my own mental health. I'm able to get through my day job and my daily activities without it hindering me too much. So I don't want to speak as if I have some sort of like, I don't know, a significant life experience, but I do have some experience with it. And Kristen of Ask Kristen, Ask Like Kristen on YouTube, she suggested that I participate in Mental Health Week, which is the first week of May. So I don't know if I'll make a video for every day of the first week of May, but I'll try to make at least one video for the first week of May where I am uplifting the meme of the Mental Health Week of 2016. And I'll try to make a video about it. I'll try to make a video where I talk a little bit more about what my experiences are. I can tell you this. I can tell you that in my experience as a person with a day job, with a career where I go into an office or work with people in the office, I have come to realize over the past year or so that there are a lot of ableist tendencies in the hiring and maintaining of employees that I never really thought about before. Like if one of our employees has difficulty learning a skill, and they have difficulty learning that skill because they have some sort of physical disability, some sort of mental illness, then the default tendency of management is to say, well, they're not good enough. Either get rid of them, replace them, or make them do it better.
That's disgusting.
Rather than realizing, hey, the reason why they aren't able to learn this skill as quickly as we'd like it to happen is because of these obstacles that they can't just shrug off.
And that's why I hate capitalism.
Capitalism is ableist right at its core. Right at its core.
It is.
And I am a part of that capitalistic society to make some money, but I do not like it, and I try to fight it where I can.
I saw about the Mental Health Week, and I have a video that I've been planning that I actually filmed a while ago about like self-care and how that ties into mental health and my mental health. But I've been scared to publish it, and I guess I'm hesitant to talk about mental health on my channel because there's such a there's such a stigma, and a lot of people who believe that being transgender is tied to mental illness, and a lot of people who comment on my videos saying that I'm not actually what I'm saying that I am, or I'm not, that all my beliefs are incorrect because I'm mentally ill, or like they perceive me to be mentally ill. They think that I am because I am transgender. And so I'm like, I want to talk about mental health on my channel, but I don't want people to be like, to say that it's true that transgender people are just people with mental health issues, because I happen to be a transgender person who, like anyone does, has mental health issues.
I feel like I just, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know better, but I feel like in the last year or so they just removed the gender dysphoric aspect of transphobia of being transgender from the diagnostic handbook. Like I think at one point it was actually considered a mental illness, but I feel like they just recently removed that from being a mental illness, which is like long overdue.
Yeah, I know that it was at one point. I don't know when they changed that. I know that they've just recently changed how they diagnose trans people, because they used to diagnose transgender people with like gender identity disorder, I think, but now they only diagnose gender dysphoria.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what's happened. Yeah. Although neither Milo nor I are experts on this topic, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happened. And it is because of the heteronormative, cis-normative, very privileged perspective, this very narrow viewpoint of what is mentally normal, typical, and healthy, that a lot of mental diagnoses in the past, and I don't mean like long in the past, I mean like within the last 10 years past, a lot of mental diagnoses in the past have been bullshit because they've come from this perspective of what is normal, which was such a tiny, narrow perspective. I mean, even like even when like Kinsey was writing things for their sex research, they were coming across all sorts of things with regards to gender identity in their exploration of sex that made them realize, hey, the stuff that we think is normal isn't normal, or the stuff that we think is weird isn't weird. It's actually very typical, and that's been around for like several decades, and yet the mainstream medical community hasn't caught up to it until just very recently, and it's still not done. It's still not done. If you go to the wrong psychiatrist, if you go to the wrong therapist, they will totally diagnose you with bullshit just because you just because you're not cisgender.
Yeah. And talking about therapy, stop me if we need to stop ranting about this topic, but Connor Manning made a couple of videos not too long ago talking about a terrible experience with his therapist, which his therapist was doubting his bisexuality.
Oh, I was so mad. I was so angry at that video.
Yeah. There's a lot of issues with the mental health system in America, and a lot of homophobia and transphobia involved in that. I'm lucky enough that I go to a therapist at an LGBT center, so it's probably naturally just more accepting because it's geared towards LGBT people. But I know that not everyone can have access to that, which is a shame, and that people have experiences like what Connor went through.
Yeah, I had a friend in Baltimore who had to go from her original therapist to new therapist because that their original therapist was not accepting of her pansexual identity. They thought that there was something wrong with them, or that they weren't like committed to their real identity. That's bullshit gross. Like that. That's awful. I think in the Washington D.C. area, my friend Bianca has recommended One Medical as a medical organization where they are very, very rainbow community friendly of gender identity, of transgender folk, of sexual identities, of polyamory. So they are like very accepting of all sorts of different directions on the spectrums. We are joined in the chat by Strawberry Finn. Hi, Strawberry Finn. I actually really love your username. That's a great username.
Cody's here. Cody.
Hey! I adore Cody. There's a lot of side stuff here in the chat. I'm gonna ignore all that things. I do. Eyes Like a Cat corrected me. I said the incorrect phrasing. I should have said visually impaired. I apologize. I should have said visually impaired. Seb's Corner says, Milo, do you have any recommendations for making videos accessible, especially for trigger warnings? I find that very tricky personally.
Oh man.
If you don't have an answer, it's okay.
What my process has been with dealing with triggers, which is really the only accessibility thing that I can talk about, because I closed caption my videos, but that's not anything that I am an expert in or that out of my realm. But for trigger warnings, if you're interested in like what you should trigger, I personally like have a list on my Tumblr blog of the things that I try to tag, but my process of trigger warning my videos is to put a disclaimer in my description, as you've probably seen. And if it's a bigger trigger, if it consumes more of the video, then I might put it like before the beginning of the video. I haven't had to do that because I haven't discussed anything that I deem as that heavy, but that would be my process. And then if I have a trigger that is something that I could easily like censor, like slur words or different like things with language, then I censor it in my captions so that if someone wants to watch the video without hearing the slur words, they can mute the audio and just read the captions. That's my process. I don't know if that answers what you were going for. I don't know.
I mean, it's a good answer, and I try to do the same thing. First of all, I try very hard not to use slur words. Like as soon as I learn that a word is a slur to any niche, to any community, to any peoples, I try to immediately just cut it right out of my vocabulary, to the point where like I don't use certain slurs that are ableist towards people with different mental faculties, because I learned that was the thing. So I stopped using those words. Likewise, I tend to use rainbow community instead of a lot of the other phrases that are used for people of marginalized gender and sexual identities, because again, I feel like it's not a slur. It's a safe word for an ally to use. But when I do have to reference one specifically, like if I'm going to talk about how such and such person said this, and here's why I think it's wrong, then I will try actually just not to verbalize it at all, but to have it like visually on screen with some censorship of it, like the asterisks, to make the word a little bit less of a slap in the face, as it were. And just like Milo does, I try to make sure that in my descriptions, I'll make a note of content warning or trigger warning for whatever I'm discussing. I think that both Milo, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that both Milo and are of the camp that you cannot go wrong by including warnings. Right. Warnings are a positive thing, not a negative thing.
Yeah. Like, because it really doesn't hurt anyone by putting a trigger there that no one finds useful. Like, why would that be triggering? Like, that's not hurting anyone. Like, they may get upset at the feminazi social justice warrior army that is taking over the world and ruining free speech with political correctness. But it's actually not causing any harm to anyone. So if I can potentially help someone out by putting a trigger warning in a video, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's literally just being considerate. It's like asking a friend, "Hey, do you mind if we talk about this before we go on?" Except that because it is a thing that you're posting and broadcasting to a large audience, you can't wait for the response of every individual person who's going to be potentially viewing it. So you just say in advance, here's a warning. If you want to keep watching, that would be great. If you don't want to keep watching, that's also fine. The warning is here so that you can make that decision.
Right.
I'm going to skip down the chats because there have been so many chats, which I love. It is fantastic, but I feel like we're just never going to catch up if I don't skip down a bit. So,
and Cody asked a question that I want to answer. If you want to,
you go for it. For it.
Okay, let me find it. Okay, Cody asked, "How do you feel about going into university as a trans person? Was a queer population / LGBT plus organization something you considered when applying?" What I did for applying to colleges was, well, first off, to understand my experience, I am going to school as a film major. So there were multiple factors that I considered when going to select a college, as one does. Of course, I looked at best film schools, but I also looked at LGBT friendliness at schools. That was a big consideration. One of the top schools that I wanted to apply to and that I got accepted to, but that I can't go to because of money, they were both on the top 12 LGBT friendly schools in the nation, and also top 12 film schools in the nation. So I was like, hey, that's a good mix. And of course they have an LGBT organization, and they have drag shows on their campus. It's very okay with the LGBT culture. And then the school that I'm actually going to is probably less LGBT friendly because it's a state school in Texas.
Ugh.
But it's in a very LGBT friendly city, which is extremely important to me. And it has an LGBT group on campus, and it has there's an LGBT youth group just a couple miles away from the school. So that was extremely important to me. But ultimately, what's most important to me for selecting my college as a trans person was, what are like the dorm accommodations? Because even if a school is accepting, according to whoever makes these lists for LGBT friendliness, you know that LGBT friendliness is not going to give the biggest rating for trans people, because the school may be like, oh yeah, we don't care if you're gay, but do you have gender neutral bathrooms? Do you make accommodations for trans students in dorms? And the school that I'm going to, I know that they have several dorms that are co-ed within floor. So for me, that fits my comfort levels, because I'm looking for a roommate who is trans or non-binary, who I could room with, and then I am not necessarily in like a gendered dorm. That was what I considered mostly. And I know that there are gender neutral bathrooms on the campus that I'm going to. So
thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully with the news about gender bathroom bills, it's such a hot topic right now. It's like such a controversial big topic that politicians are talking about during these presidential debates even. Hopefully this will bring more awareness of the fact that A, trans people are not dangerous people.
They're not.
B, more problems happen in bathrooms from people who are cis and straight than anything else.
Yeah.
And C, why the F do you care what other people are doing in the bathroom? Leave them alone.
And also, a lot of people are opposed to bathroom equality, not because they think that transgender people are necessarily predators, but that it would make it easier for predators to go in pretending to be trans. But the thing is that happens right now. And like bathroom laws that make it legal for transgender people to use a bathroom with the gender they identify with is not making it legal for predators to come in pretending to be trans. It's very easy to tell the difference between an actual trans person and a person who is clearly just trying to disguise himself for the purpose of gross things.
Yeah, and even if you couldn't tell the difference, the gross things themselves are illegal.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of who's doing them or where, they're always illegal.
Yeah.
So just have police do the jobs. How about that? Anyway, obviously you and I are on the same side. And that is an answer to Cody's question. How do you feel about going to the university as a trans person?
I'm excited. Hopefully it'll be okay.
I think you're going to have a great time.
I hope so.
Let's see here. What else is in the chats? Eyes Like a Cat says, I had a therapist tell me I was inspiring for not having ended my life. Oh my goodness. Geez. There's a lot of ableism. They can be the worst. I'm glad that you have access to a therapist at an LGBT center. Yeah, that is horrible. That is flipping horrible. Penina, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Let's see here. Tate the Great says, I'll have to look at your list of triggers. My videos don't have many triggers I could think of, but I know my Tumblr could use them. Alex says, sorry for asking so many questions. something. I'm not sure about Alex's question. Can you see Alex's question about otherkin?
Reading it right now.
Okay. I will let you answer that if you feel like answering it. All right, and now I am caught up to the bottom of the chat. So if you have asked a question and I've missed it, it is not because I dislike you or I don't want to answer your question. It's because there were so many questions I had to scroll down to the bottom. So feel free to ask your question again. It is perfectly okay.
So Alex had asked about if I think that otherkin identities are appropriative. I don't think I'm educated enough on this topic to give an answer. I can say that I've never heard any discussion of them being appropriative before, and that's why, I haven't looked into deeper, because I know that similar concepts exist in a lot of cultures. But I have to research more, because that's making me wonder now. So I don't know is my answer, and thank you for bringing that to my top thoughts. Yes.
I don't know is always a perfectly acceptable answer because there's a lot of stuff that we can't know. I remember the first time I think it was on Tumblr. Somebody pointed out that saying that something is your spirit animal could be appropriative of native cultures, and suggested saying like, you know, this is my Patronus instead is a safer alternative. So that is something that I've started doing. Once that came to my attention, I don't even know necessarily, because some people who are part of Native American nations have said that they don't care, that it's not a big deal. Some people who are part of Native American nations have said that it is in fact appropriative and that you should not do that. Since I am not a part of that culture, I am not going to decide for myself whether or not that is appropriative. I'm going to take the safe route and say, you know what? I'm going to respect it as something that I don't know enough about and do something else. That's what I'm going to do.
That's my general philosophy with dealing with anything that a community that I'm not a part of says something is problematic. I'm like, if it's easy for me to change my behavior, so I'm going to, because even if the whole community doesn't take an issue with it, I don't want some people to feel like I'm doing harm to their community. So to be safe, I'm going to go with like the people who are saying I should stop doing something, I'm going to stop doing it. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I'm on the same side. Looks like Melissa Forberg is stepping out of the chats. Thank you for joining us for as long as you did, Melissa. Bye.
Bye, pal.
So Kale Ling brings up this topic of close-knit friends allowing their white friends to say the N-word, and how that is an example of when something that is a wrong behavior can be acceptable in like a small situation. I understand that example. I understand it. I don't agree with it. I think that a perpetuation of harmful ideas and mindsets comes from the small friend groups. I think that's what grows into the larger community things. So like if you say it among like 5 friends of yours, if you like use slurs, if you act in a way that is marginalizing or oppressive in a small group of 5 friends of yours, but you don't accept it yourself outside of that small group, that does not mean that your other 4 friends aren't perpetuating that same issue, that same attitude outside of your small group. I don't like it. I'm not going to go into all of the friendships that are out there in the world and like bust in like Kool-Aid Man and saying, hey, don't do this, because I can't do that. But I will say that I do not accept it in any of my small friends groups. If in any of my small friend groups, somebody says something homophobic, I say, I call out that bullshit. If somebody says something sexist or racist, I call out that bullshit. I don't care if you're my best friend. I don't care if I've known you for 20 years and it's harmless. No, it's never harmless. It is never harmless, in my opinion. It is symptomatic of larger harm being done. But that's just me.
I agree. If my opinion matters, it probably doesn't. But
your opinion definitely matters, Milo. Come on. Before we started our public chat, you had mentioned that there might be some stuff about the YouTube community that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what was that stuff?
Okay. So dealing with the different types of power structures on YouTube, because no matter what, they exist. When you have people who might potentially see themselves as a fan of yours, there is a different power structure there. And I think that there's been a lot of discussion on YouTube about the power structures on YouTube of dealing with IRL abuse and like relationship abuse. and stuff like that. I don't feel like there's been enough discussion about abuse of power on the platform. And I'll clarify because I'm being very vague. This was something that Ashley Mardell made a daily video about a couple months ago, I think, that really got me thinking, and especially recently, given events on YouTube. Ashley Mardell was talking about how highlighting a certain person in your videos or on other social media as a person who has internet influence is potentially an abuse of power. Not necessarily that you would say anything hateful or abusive towards this person or towards anyone who you're talking about in YouTube, but that your audience, you don't have control over your audience, but because they watch you and they like your videos, they're more likely to go to this person and then potentially harass them.
You're talking about like YouTubers stirring up their army of fans to go attack another YouTuber, whether purposefully or accidentally.
Yeah, which was why if I'm ever talking about a YouTuber who I disagree with, unless it's a direct reply, like when I've engaged in healthy discussion with Dan Brown in situations like that, then I'll mention them directly because it's a conversation. But if I'm just talking about someone that I disagree with, I won't use their name because I don't want any of my viewers who I don't have control over the actions. I don't want them to go and potentially be mean to this person in my name. I don't want to increase any abuse that might happen. Like, I have faith in my viewers that most of them are probably good people who wouldn't do that, but YouTube is public and I can't control who subscribes to me. So
this is an interesting topic. It's an interesting topic because there are different levels. There are different levels of responsibility here. On the one hand, every viewer who views my video is responsible for their own actions. And unless I specifically tell them, go do this thing, then I am not directly responsible for anything that my viewers do. But as you point out, if I were to say, for example, Sam Pepper is an abusive asshole who shouldn't be on YouTube, then potentially my 2,000 some subscribers could all go and harass Sam Pepper.
Right.
That is a thing that potentially could happen, even if I didn't tell them to do that. What is my responsibility as a YouTuber about those situations? My responsibility is that I should explicitly tell my viewers not to do that. I should if I bring up somebody by name who I disagree with in whatever fashion, then I need to immediately put the safety on my weapon. I need to immediately holster my weapon by saying, hey, I'm going to say these things about this person because I think these are true, and I want you to be aware of them. Maybe I'm actually trying to be helpful in some fashion, but I do not want you to go attacking them.
Right.
I think that's my responsibility as a YouTuber. If I don't say anything, that is responsibility by omission. Mm-hmm. That's like, oh, I'm just going to passive aggressively mention this other person. I'm not going to tell you to go attack them, but because I talk about them in a bad light, you're probably going to attack them. I'm just not going to bring it up. That's bullshit. I mean, as soon as you have anybody who starts paying attention and responding to the things that you say in any platform, you have power, and it is willful ignorance to deny that power that you have. And I think that I've seen YouTubers who I really respect take a good attitude toward this. I feel like I've seen Francesca Ramsey will have a disagreement with somebody, and then she will explicitly say, hey, don't go after this person. Don't act shitty on my behalf because that is not cool. That does not make the situation better. Don't do that, which is good. She is somebody with the power of her audience. So saying that specifically is the right way to do it. On the other hand, I have seen people who are not so great, people whose last name rhymes with Harbor, say things about other people.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that they're trying to aim their army for an attack.
Yeah.
That is shitty.
Yeah. I think there are multiple sides to that because when people were making response videos to Dear Fat People. Of course, all these response videos are important and well-intended and super necessary because we're addressing an issue of fat phobia. But I believe that the creator of the video probably received like hate comments from the extra views and traffic flow of people coming to her channel from these response videos, in which you could say that she deserves it, but I don't think that like any internet harassment is really necessary. And I can see this from the person who has received extra traffic flow from videos responding to me, because there is a genre of YouTube channels of people who are mostly anti-feminist or MRAs, or I'm not a feminist, I'm a humanist peoples, who will make videos and dedicate their channels solely to making response videos to other YouTubers who talk about feminism or LGBT activism or any marginalized community. It's happened to me a couple times that people have made response videos to my videos. People with much larger audiences than me, I'm gonna name drop because I don't know. I feel like don't go harass these people, but the Drunken Peasants podcast featured my video once, and like the Amazing Atheist was on there, and they were like, they didn't say any directly like hateful about me, but I got traffic flow from their viewers, who obviously are hateful towards the young gays, the young trans gays, and obviously they have a huge audience, and like other YouTubers who have huge audiences have made videos about me, and this just happened like last week that someone made, this past week that just ended, is just ending. Someone made another video about me, and I'm getting so much traffic flow that just terrible comments, like death threats, like people like just gross comments, and it's like, no, you didn't tell your viewers to go and comment, but when you dedicate a channel just to making response videos like this, you're flat out encouraging that. Like you are non-verbally encouraging it. Is that how? Like you're how to word?
Well, I mean, I think that if you have a channel that's dedicated toward hate, essentially, essentially what it is dedicated toward hate, then anything that you put on that channel is obviously put there to push that hatred in a direction. That's what it's there for. So, I mean, in that specific scenario, the organizations that provide the platform. So, like, if it were a YouTube channel, YouTube. If it were a SoundCloud podcast, SoundCloud. Those organizations should be taking down those damn channels because all they're doing is perpetuating hate. What the hell? Why aren't they doing that? And Stakachino actually just asked the question. Where did I say that? Stakachino said, "What do you think about people who ask their followers, viewers, audience to go and report videos?" I think that that's another form of sending your army off to do something.
Yeah.
But when you report a video or when you report a channel as abusive in some fashion, then you are basically telling the organization to examine what's going on. And nominally, that functionality is there for positive reasons. So that if someone has a hate video, you can say, I found this hate video. They are being hateful, which is harmful to a person or multiple persons. Let's take it down so that it stops doing harm. And all you're doing is reminding the organization, hey, step in and do what you're supposed to do. Don't allow these people to do harm.
Right.
It's not really an attack so much as it is asking the organization to help out. It's like a form of self-defense, essentially. I think that is different from going and telling people to comment on a video full of hate. I think it's different from telling people to dox a person, to send them emails, to do all sorts of shutting down the voice of hatred is not the same thing as attacking a person. It's shutting down hatred is not the same thing as attacking. They're different things. They're different things.
I think it can be abused. I think it's a feature that's intended to be helpful, but I do think it can be abused. I think it's less likely to be abused, but of course people are going to interpret hate differently, and like what is hate versus like free speech and opinions, but there are people who could see something as hateful, direct people to that video to report it when arguably it wasn't hateful. Like people in my video where I say all white people are racist, people are saying that I'm being hateful. I do not believe that calling someone racist is inherently an insult. It's an important, in my opinion, it's an important sense of self-awareness that people need to have to better society. But some people would interpret that as hate. So I don't think it's an entirely abusive thing. I think that it's sometimes needed to tell people to report something, but that it could potentially also be abused.
Yeah, I'm going to say that right now, that blanket statement, calling someone racist is not hateful.
Yeah.
It could be wrong. You could be mistaken, but the best case scenario is that you're pointing out a harmful behavior and attitude. Worst case scenario is that you're mistaken and that they're not. If you're calling somebody racist, you're trying to point out that they are in a position of racial power in your society over other people. It's not the same thing as bigoted. Anybody can be bigoted. Anybody can be prejudiced. Racism is systemic. It is about where the power is in your culture. You can say that white people are racist because they are literally the power in our society.
Right.
That is where it's historically been the case throughout the entirety of white people's basically imperialistic history through most of Europe. Certainly in the short time that America has been around, the United States has been around. If you say that white people are racist, all you're saying is true thing is true. That is it. That's all you're saying.
Yeah.
If you say that a black person is racist, all you're doing is being wrong. They can't be racist because they're systemically not in the position of power. So all you're doing is lying. That's it. If, on the other hand, you say that somebody has done a thing, if you say that somebody has committed sexual assault and you're lying about that, first of all, statistically, that's almost never happens. It's like something like 1 to 3% of all times that you accuse somebody of sexual assault it's a false accusation. But also, if you were to doing that, that would be actually harming somebody's like reputation, integrity, potentially their life. If you are making a false accusation in that case, different things. If you actually get somebody labeled as a sexual assailant, then that is harming them. If you get somebody labeled as a racist, you know how many people are hurt by being called racist? 0 people ever in the history of ever.
Yeah.
That's my vehement response to that. Okay, I think, I'm not sure if you feel comfortable responding to this, Milo, but I wanted to actually talk about this because it's been brought up a couple times. Okay. Whether or not, if you are a trans person in the closet, if you are lying about your identity. Kale and I think Lauren and a couple of people, Cass maybe, have been talking about this in the chats. I have not been ignoring you. I've just been waiting for a point in the conversation where we could bring it up. And my response to this, as somebody who is not trans, who is not in the closet, my response is this. Lying means that you are not telling the truth. So if you truly believe that you are male and you say to people, I am female, and the reason why you say that is because you are afraid for your life, you're afraid for your identity, you're afraid for being excommunicated from your church or your family, you're afraid for any number of reasons, but for that reason, you say that you are a gender that you do not feel that you actually are, that might be a lie. And it also doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the slightest. Telling the truth all the time is not like the be-all, end-all virtue that everybody must adhere to. That's not the most important thing. In most cases, the most important thing is to be safe and be alive and be good and go on to get to a point where you can be safe enough that you can tell the truth all the time. That would be great. But our society sucks, and our society might kill you if you tell the truth. So whether or not it's a lie, I don't care. Being in the closet is a thing that is a safe thing to do in many circumstances.
My opinion is that a trans person is not lying before they come out, unless in a rare case that they're like trying to disguise their identity after they've come out and lie for like some alternative motive. But I don't think that like being aware of your trans identity and not telling everyone about it or telling them what your actual gender is, I don't believe that's lying. And this is why. Because before I came out, I was being perceived as a girl. But I didn't ever agree to that. I didn't ever determine, like I didn't pronounce that ever. Like that is something that society put onto me and that society pressured me to agree with and to continue to communicate to people. But when I realized my trans identity, I did not come out right away because of safety and because of multiple factors, because maybe it wasn't the right time, or because I didn't have the opportunity to, or because I needed more support behind me before I came out, or I wasn't entirely comfortable with myself before I come out. That's, in my mind, it's not lying, because I was figuring out that an identity that society put on me was wrong, and I was trying to correct it. I think that if anything, like being in the closet is the part where you're trying to correct society and getting mentally prepared or like physically prepared to tell that to society. Just like stop the lie that society has put onto you. That's my opinion. Just my opinion, though.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And that makes a lot of sense for certainly that period when you're trying to come to grips with what your true gender identity is. It absolutely makes sense. Lies are purposeful acts, whether it's a lie of omission or a lie of telling. It is when you purposefully are trying to obscure the truth. You can't lie accidentally. Yeah. Like if you think one thing is literally true and you say it all the time, it's not because you're not lying, you're just wrong. It's knowing the truth and then obscuring it that is the lying aspect. So if you don't know what your gender identity is and it takes you some time to figure that out, that time period when you try to figure it out, you're never lying. You're still figuring things out. That makes perfect sense to me. I think they might in the chats be talking specifically about situations where you already have come to a personal conclusion about your gender identity, and then you just don't share it with other people, and you allow them to keep on misgendering you. I think they might be talking about that specific time frame.
Well,
do you feel the same way in that situations, Milo?
Well, I'm in a situation right now where I'm not out to all of my extended family. And there's a good reason for that, namely because if I came out to some members of my extended family, I would probably get disowned. Like, that's just the situation. And that, like, flat out, a lot of my elder relatives who would probably disown me are probably going to like not be around on this earth for super long. And it's like, I don't want to create this drama that would just end our relationship, like probably for good. And I'm like, there are probably some extended family that I will probably never come out to. I want to try to come out to more extended family, but it's in a situation where it wouldn't be like a safety issue for me to come out to them because like they're family that I don't rely on for like my basic living. Like if I came out to my parents and they were unaccepting and they kicked me out, that could be a safety hazard. But like I'm not in any danger from coming out to my relatives, but it's more of like I don't want to disrupt the family and like reasons like that, for reasons why I haven't come out to certain members of my extended family, that I don't think that it's lying in my mind, because I've still they're still the ones gendering me as a girl. And I have not told them anything about my gender, regardless. So if you consider lying like omission of the truth, then perhaps it's lying. But it's lying for a good purpose in my mind, because I don't want to be disowned. I don't want to be disowned. Like, maybe it's lying, but I don't really care.
I mean, the thing is that, again, I don't think that lying is inherently a sin, is inherently a bad thing. It seems like it's portrayed that way in all the stories that we're ever told. But honestly, this society makes us fit into certain little boxes, and if we don't fit inside those boxes, we endanger things that are important to us: our lives, our relationships, our friendships, our careers, etc. Those are things that society says, hey, you better lie to us about this, about your true self, or you're going to get screwed in this situation. In the case of your relatives who have known you since you were a baby, since before you could conceptualize your own gender identity, and you've had relationships with your entire life, they think of you as a certain way, and the way they think of you is true. If you were to come out to them, they would start thinking of you incorrectly. They would start thinking of you as having, because you came out to them, they would put a label on you. They would think of you in a way that all of a sudden would make you untrue to them. That's not any better. That's not better than staying in the closet to them. It is just like another way of obscuring the truth of your relationship with them. So if you're in your situation, you maintain your closeted situation with an elder relative so that they don't thinking of
hating me.
So if they don't, yeah. I think that is its own type of truth. It is allowing them to continue thinking of you as the person that they've known and loved your whole life.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't have a puppy, but I have a stuffed panda. Not a panda, polar bear. Just kidding.
That's adorable. Looks about the same as my dog. Very similar. Very similar. Let's see here. What else we have in the chats? Steakachino says, hi, Sabrina, by the way. Steakachino says, I'm not sure that anyone is entitled to know anything about other people's gender or sexual identities. I don't find myself to be obligated to share my sexuality with others, at least. I absolutely agree with that. I think I might have said in another video or another chat that the only time that I care about someone's gender or identity, actually, I never care about anybody else's gender. Their gender is completely unimportant to me as a thing that would get in the way of our relationships, be it friendships or otherwise. So I don't care about anybody's gender. But the only time I would care about anybody else's sexuality is if I wanted to have sex or a romantic relationship with them. At which point, the only thing I need to know is if they're into me. Yeah. That's it. That is the sum of it. If they're not, we're done. If they are, I might proceed. That's all.
Yeah. I also think you have to consider a situation in which the person that you would come out to would be unwilling to accept the truth about your gender and sexuality. So, like, is it being untruthful if they would not see the truth regardless of what I tell them? Like, there have been people who I come out to, but who still continue gendering me as she and will like not call me anything else. Like, does at that point, does it matter if I come out to them? Like, I have chosen to come out to people who are like that, but I don't think that I could judge a trans person or a LGBT person who would not choose to come out to someone who would be blind. Well, nope, sorry, ableist language, who would not be willing to accept their identity.
Here. And it's, it's not even just a matter of being socially comfortable with it. It's with your family, it mostly is. But in many cases, It's literally a matter of life and death. Within the last month, I have read 2 news articles about people who were gay being killed for being out as just gay. And that is like the most accepted of the rainbow communities. It's 2016. Yeah. How are people still being killed for that? That is horrifying.
The dad killed his son. That's like, I can't even imagine that.
It is awful. Panina Eyes Like a Cat says, high five for stopping yourself at use of that ableist language. Hear, hear. Well done, you. Yeah, so I'm having a lovely time talking to you, Milo. This is the greatest.
I'm glad. It's fun.
There have been lots of conversations that have happened in the chats that I haven't even participated in because the people in the chats were great and they just like dealt with the conversations themselves. Awesome. There was a great point about, I think Steakachino said, no, Star Pasta said that white people's racism stems from the fact that societies have been racist historically forever. And so, yes, you do take that with you wherever you go. Even if you were to go to a place where white people were in the minority, you would still carry your racism with you. And I agree with that. It's
not even just like the history of racism. Like that's one factor. But then there's, in my opinion, as a white person who has like, I'm just repeating basically what I've heard from people of color, but that I believe that racism is like definitely continuing, but it's sort of like finding new ways of like displaying itself, like from like the KKK to like the police, and how I believe in modern society we've become especially desensitized to racism because of the many videos of people of color, mostly Black people and Latinx people, being like murdered or abused by police that we're just exposed to, and that's terrible stuff that's just shown as normal, and the media doesn't censor most of the time, and it's disgusting. And I do not know the actual psychology of it, but that has to affect your psychology in some way. Like there was a study that white people empathy, but like the verb of empathize with white people more than like any other race. Like they don't feel as much empathy for Black people, and that's a psychology thing. That's like how we've just been affected through growing up through imperialism and then through like terrible police brutality.
Yes. Oh, white people. Yeah. I think I've read that same study that said that white people tend to more empathize with white people than anything else, which means that in a scenario where any scenario where you flip the situation between the ethnicities of the people involved, so if it's like a white cop attacking a Black person or a Black cop attacking a white person, white people will always empathize with the white person, regardless of the power structure involved. Yeah, that's messed up. That is messed up very badly. And it is an aspect of the racist nature of all of us. I mean, everybody is influenced by racism to a certain degree. We have a lot of us have internalized racism, whether we realize it or not. And it comes out in everything from who you believe in altercations to who you want to date on Tinder to who you want to vote for. All of these things. It's like, even if you don't consciously say the reason why I'm aiming in this direction is because their skin color is like my skin color, it is still a part of the things that we do. We have to actively, aggressively fight it in ourselves, because society has been brainwashing us our entire lives not to fight it, to just go with it. It's not good. It's not good.
No, it's not. And I don't think that I think that it can only be helpful to acknowledge that we're affected by racism. Like, I'm racist. I am raised in a society that taught me to be racist, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an article that I don't remember the exact details of, but it was like how white people have not become less racist, but that better educated white people just learn to not display it, but how white people show it through their politics by like mostly not supporting like politics that would end like systematic or like work to end like systematic racism.
I missed the last part of what you were saying because I was reading the chats.
Smart white people are still racist.
Here, here. I agree with that. I do think that I do feel like here's a controversial statement. I do feel like if smart white people who are racist learn to act not racist and to say things that are not racist, and that's all they do in public, I think that's actually potentially a good thing.
Right.
Because the people around them will normalize that behavior rather than normalizing the racist behavior.
Yeah. Then that behavior just needs to translate into actual policy that's going to help people affected.
Policy and brains. Like we need to actually change our brains to be that way as well. Which, you know, if you are exposed to something enough, does in fact change your brain.
Yeah.
In the chat, I can't remember who. Okay, I think Kale asked "eyes like a cat" if blind in the correct literal context is generally appropriate to use. And "eyes like a cat" said that if you're talking about someone who is blind, yes, they are blind. That's like literally a thing. It's actually like a word with a real definition. That's yes. But it's when you're using the word blind as an adjective to imply that that is some sort of ignorance or not being able to see the truth about things, that's when it's problematic. So I'm just saying what I've read there.
Also language like calling something your crutch, meaning that you're like relying on it. Like words like that where you're using a term to describe a disability or something related to a disability in a different context, which is just like untrue about the actual disability. I think if I was like a cat, correct me if I'm like, if that is not correct, but that's how I understand it.
I mean, generally speaking, the idiomatic phrases that describe things having to do with people with disabilities are problematic idioms because they're idioms that are made up by people who are able-bodied, and they're using them in a derogatory fashion to describe a derogatory situation, and they're having to using the same phrases that are used to describe literally disabled people. So if you're describing a metaphorical situation negatively by comparing it to an actual human being who is a disabled person, there's no possible way that could be a good thing. It can't be a good thing. That is a harmful thing. I love our chats. Our chat is great. People are having some fantastic conversations in here. That is awesome. We are getting to the end of 2 hours. Can you believe it?
Oh man. Oh man. Time flies.
It does fly. It flies when you're having fun. Are there any last things that you would like to talk about as we wrap up our conversation?
I saw a question in the comments that was interesting.
Go for it.
Let me find it. Let me see who asked it. Someone asked about oh, okay. Oh man, pronunciation. Emily asked, what are your thoughts on concepts such as heterophobia? Correct me if I mispronounce your name, but heterophobia, oh man. In general, my opinion is that words such as homophobia and like racism, sexism, more correctly misogyny, like describe systems of oppression or marginalization, that's more so than just discrimination or just bias. Because we can debate over like definitions of words, and I think that's pointless to say that. I don't think it's productive to debate over whether or not like racism describes prejudice or bias, or if it describes systems of oppression. But I'm of the belief that these terms describe structural bias in a society.
Yeah.
And under that definition, I don't believe that heterophobia, cisphobia, racism against white people exist. I believe that there are people who are of a marginalized community who have biases against a marginal or of a oppressive or like non-marginalized community. Sure. There are people who have biases like that, but I think that those are mostly based in just frustration against the marginalization, and that doesn't justify like harassing someone because of that, or something like that. But I think that a community just trying to have a moment of relief, a moment to like joke about systems of oppression and marginalization, sometimes that's interpreted as cisphobia or heterophobia. Like down with cis is a thing that I take as a joke. It's intended to be a joke. We're not actually saying that trans people should oppress cis people, but saying down with cis is just a fun thing when you're tired of being a marginalized trans person because a hard life. Oh man. I don't think that is cisphobia. But then it comes down to your definition of the terms, and I don't think that that's a productive discussion. So if it comes down to debating a definition, I think it's pretty pointless, and I think there are much better things that could be done. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I just ranted a lot.
It was a good rant.
Thank you.
I think that it really depends, again, on as often is the case with controversial language, it depends on who is using it and why. So if you are a cis person who is accusing people of being cisphobic, if you're a heterosexual person who is accusing people of being heterophobic, I don't think that you understand the systemic structures of power that are around you, is what it boils down to. You don't understand what's happening. You think that that's a significant thing. You're just mistaken. You're mistaken. There is nothing that the gay people in the United States could do to stop the straight people in the United States from having, for example, most of the seats in Congress. You can't do that. So gay people could be heterophobic all they wanted to, and it wouldn't do a darned thing. Wouldn't. If you accuse them of that, then you're accusing them of having a power that they don't have. On the other hand, if you're part of a marginalized community and you use phrases like, oh, I'm totally heterophobic, or you say things like down with cis, then you're probably doing it as a joking response to the fact that they are the people who are marginalizing you, and it's so obviously disproportionate, the power structure, that saying that is at best punching up, and at worst just making a joke to deal with the fact that your life is a little bit suckier than theirs. You know, you punching up is what comedy is supposed to be. It's supposed to alleviate the disparate power structures. Heterophobia is not a thing. Like men's rights is not a thing. When the people already have the power, then they have the power. And I feel like people who are in those privileged positions might react negatively and very strongly negatively to these obviously absurd phrases because they incorrectly see that approaching equality, approaching equity and just positions is putting them in a position of being oppressed. They're not. They're just approaching equity. It just looks like that when you're coming from a position of privilege.
I would disagree with something that you said.
Sure.
About men's rights, because I do think that there's some legitimacy to men's rights, because of course men are of like they're not marginalized or oppressed, but that they are affected by misogyny, which is different, of course, than like misandry, because it's not misandry, but that feminism is about trying to deconstruct misogyny, which is the hatred of women or like femininity, which affects men because men can't do things that are associated with femininity because it is this hated thing. So yes, it does trickle down to affect men's rights, but the men's rights movement is mostly just a way to defer the conversation about feminism. I don't believe that it has any legitimate productive stances that are activisty. Like, I think it's mostly just to defer conversation and like harass minors on the internet. Cough, cough, Milo Yiannopoulos, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually specifically quoting Parks and Recreation, where Amy Poehler's character says men's rights isn't a thing. But yes, obviously, I mean, I believe in men's rights, but I believe that for the most part they already have them. And I believe that feminism, and specifically intersectional feminism, continues to fight for men's rights along with women's rights, because it opposes the entrenched patriarchy that screws over both men and women and all the genders. Patriarchy does that. Feminism doesn't. Feminism wants men to be okay with being effeminate if they care to wear dresses, to present themselves with whatever gender expression that they want, to express themselves with whatever kind of parent or partner that they want to be. Intersectional feminism is in favor of all those things. Men's rights activists are mostly just attacking feminists.
And like doing things like, oh, we need an app that like creates a binding contract before you have sex so that they can't claim it's rape. Like
that's
ventured onto a Men Going Their Own Way website and I saw a video about that and it was like, oh my God, that's not how consent works. That's really not how consent works. Like, if the men's rights that you're talking about are to like not be accused of rape, then like find a better way of going about it, because that's not stop.
That's not retaining men's rights. That's retaining men's privilege to be rapists, which I am not in favor of. I'm in favor of consent. We have there's still so many questions and comments in the chats that I want to respond to.
Oh man,
but I gotta wrap up and gotta like do other things in my day. Sad. I want to thank everybody, though. I want to thank everybody in the chats, everybody who's asked a question. If I did not get to your very good question, which you've asked, I apologize. We talk a lot. But I'm so glad that Milo, you joined me here for my last live show before going on a little hiatus.
It's awesome. I'm glad that I could have a significant, momentous, I don't know, join you on a live show that is significant to you because of your move and things.
It is significant to me because of you, Milo. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
You're amazing. Everyone go subscribe to Paul if you watch all of his videos. Because, like, wow. Particularly, watch his 3rd year anniversary video and watch the video that he posted on Christmas Day this year, because that did not give enough views and it was an amazing video. So like, go and have some Christmas cheer in the middle of spring, because like, wow.
Well, that is a fantastic testimonial. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. One more thanks to the people in the chat. Thank you so much. If you do subscribe to my channel, I will welcome you with affection, because I love all my new subscribers. It's so great to get more people on my channel as part of my community. I've seen a couple people say that this has made their Saturday, and it has made my Saturday as well.
That's so awesome. Definitely, I agree.
Milo, I know that you have your new intro seems to be hello. What is it? Easily offended millennials.
Yep.
That's really good. Do you have a new outro too?
I don't. I should come up with one, shouldn't I?
I mean, it's a YouTube thing to do, but not everybody does it.
Yeah, but I really liked easily offended millennials because a lot of people don't get my irony and my sarcasm, the intention behind my intro, which is I understand why there are multiple reasons why people may not understand sarcasm, but there are like MRAs who are getting offended or like saying like, oh, but you are easily offended. It's like that's the point that you think that's why I'm saying it. But I like it because it upsets people.
That's great. It's great because it upsets only the people that you want to upset.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I will wrap up this broadcast by saying the same thing that I say at the end of all of my videos, and that is that tomorrow will be even better.
Oh, yay.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.